For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise. And you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in on your favorite podcast app. It is Friday morning, and what a week. That's really the only way to set this up and to describe what a week. Because, and let me put this into perspective for you. It was just Monday morning that Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon were fired. Doesn't it seem like weeks ago already at this point? Like, that's just... And so, you know, when that news broke on Monday morning, I jokingly said, as an entertainment reporter, when you have that much breaking news on a Monday morning before like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, whatever time it was, when you have that much on a Monday morning, it's going to be a week. And sure enough, ladies and gentlemen, it was. And so 30 minutes today, I'm going to be talking about Don Lemon, Tucker Carlson. Carol Burnett celebrated a milestone birthday, and I had a great moment with her on my syndicated radio shows 10 years ago. Do we have the clip? We're going to find the clip and we'll play it for you. And then on Thursday, the tragic news of Jerry Springer passing away. Jerry was on, again, my syndicated radio shows, I think about 7 times over the years. Yeah, seriously. And so I have just a brief little montage that I'm going to play on the show today, and then I'll tell you how you can listen to the rest of it online after this show, of course. So Tucker Carlson, Don Lemon, Carol Burnett, Jerry Springer. Now it's Friday morning, so who knows what's going to happen sometime this afternoon or even this evening. The week is not over, folks. Let me remind you, it's not over yet. But all that is coming up on The Scribble, and it starts right after this.
This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. No offense, but are you a little fat when you look in the mirror? How would you like to learn the secret to losing 3 to 5 pounds a week without joining the gym or going through any crazy diets? It's called Body Sculpt RX. For the last 2 decades, we've helped countless people lose thousands of pounds. And now, it's your turn. Learn how to lose weight with one simple phone call and no prescription needed. You'll see an amazing difference in a matter of days. Don't believe us? We'll offer you a risk-free money-back guarantee. So, if you're ready to start losing weight, call right now and get a free month supply with your first order of Body Sculpt RX. Call now. You have nothing to lose but the pounds. 800-459-6838. 800-459-6838. 800-459-6838. That's 800-459-6838.
JB here, back on The Scribble. It's been really weird in recent years how news anchors, news hosts, news, commentators, whatever you want to call them, are in the news so much themselves. Because back in the day, it was very separated. You didn't really know anything about the news anchors, and I'm talking about the Walter Cronkites, the Peter Jennings, I guess if you're from Canada, the Lloyd Robertson, the Peter Mansbridges, those people, the iconic news anchors that you just trusted, right? I mean, those were the faces, and I didn't know if they were married. I didn't know what their politics were. I didn't know if they have a weird, drunk story, because we didn't have social media. We didn't have that connection to them. And so I'm going to take you somewhere here, and then I'll get back on track. Chris Cuomo, you remember him from CNN. He's on News Nation now. We taped a segment last week, and we were going to run it this week on the show. But then, because we didn't talk about Don Lemon, Tucker Carlson, Jerry Springer, we didn't talk about any of that kind of stuff, we thought, okay, well, we won't run it this week because it seems sort of out of place to have this, and he's somebody else who's, had scandal after scandal. So it didn't seem right talking about Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson on this episode, and then here's Chris Cuomo not addressing that at all. Now, yeah, you can put the disclaimer and say, well, we taped it before, but it just seemed weird. So Chris was out fishing with one of his friends, and we had a conversation for about, I think it was 20 minutes or so. We're going to run that for you in a couple of weeks. So we don't have Chris Cuomo on the show today. It was taped. It was quite a nice conversation. He invited me on his podcast. We'll see if that ever happens. But but my point, though, is that, you have these news anchors who are making the headlines themselves. And so when you go to page 6, right, in the New York Post or TMZ, any of these websites, you kind of look at that and go, the only thing that I know Don Lemon for in recent years, or in recent months even, well, it would be him getting drunk on New Year's for the CNN broadcast, right, and making a fool of himself. He would get criticized for that. And then he talked about Nikki Haley being past her prime. He said nobody wants to watch women's soccer, right? That's why the men... Was it soccer? It was... Somebody tell me. It was soccer. It was a sport, but he said it was men. Yeah, it was soccer, okay. And then he had apparently that shouting match, or he screamed at his co-anchor, Caitlin Collins, during a commercial break of that morning show. He lost his primetime show. He said it was a promotion. It was really a demotion. He's paired up with women. He's offending women. He has... and then I guess what people are saying is the nail in the coffin was he had this debate with a guest, and it was basically Don Lemon, a black man, right, telling somebody who's not black that they can't talk about certain aspects of American history, which is a little bit strange. And I think what people took issue with, first of all, with Don Lemon's approach is he's from that cable news primetime sort of lineup where you challenge your guests, you have that back and forth, you maybe have an argument, cut their mic, which he did that once or twice on his primetime show. Daytime TV morning shows, more specifically, are not like that. People don't want to wake up and all of a sudden have arguments, right? I don't know if you fall asleep with your TV on or whatever it is. I mean, for me, I used to. I don't have CNN on anymore, but I would wake up to that. I would fall asleep. This is when I lived alone. That's why I'm saying. I would have my TV on at night. I would fall asleep watching whatever show was recorded, and then when the show is over, it just goes back to your TV, and so whatever channel was on, for me, it happened to be CNN. And so I would lay in bed then for a little while listening to the news. New Day was the show, I think it was called, back. Again, we're going back a few years. And so that's something where I would, the alarm would go off. I'd have another 5-10 minutes in bed. I'd just be laying there listening to the news. You didn't have anybody shouting and screaming. So when you fast forward to this CNN This Morning, or CNN Morning, whatever it's called, and you hear yelling, it kind of puts you in a bad mood right to start. Do you know what I mean? Good Morning America, Today's Show, they have news, but it's also more reporting the news and not having commentary. That's, I think, where cable news has sort of, and that's one of the things that I talked to Chris Cuomo about. Our entire segment was really about the news and how scandals should be reported by the networks themselves. So maybe we should have actually played that now that I'm looking at my producers across the room. Nevertheless, I'll continue on. So with Don, it was, you kind of look at this and go, he's just a mess. The show sucks. The ratings suck. Nobody wants to go on the show. Karine Jean-Pierre said from the White House, I don't want Don to interview me, when she was on a few days ago. Now, again, the White House disputes that, but apparently that's what sources are saying. So it's kind of well, you have this new show on this big network and nobody wants to go on because of Don. So, what seems to be the logical step here, right? And it's very strange because, and again, going back to this segment with Chris that I keep referring to, we were talking about the news. Chris continually took it back to politics. I was talking news in general. He kept finding the political spin on news. He could never just focus on news, which that was fascinating. I didn't mention it to him at the time. It wasn't until after we were off the call that I was like, yeah, he kind of kept taking it back to politics. And I don't talk politics. And I made that very clear at the beginning. I said, we're going to talk news, basically how news should be reported, how it's viewed. And we just didn't have time to get to it. But with Don, again, you look at that and just go, how long can he stay there? How long will they keep him there? He still thinks he's the shit. Even after this, he had training about how not to be a chauvinist, misogynist, sexist, whatever word you want to use there. But you kind of look at that and go, really? So he was cured of his sexism in like 1 day, 2 days, however long it was? Or okay, that was it? Was he just hypnotized? Was it does he wear a patch now? How does that work? And so it's like, all right, now he's back on the air. And I don't know that he ever sort of regained credibility with the audience and also fellow media personalities at that point. So the Lemon one was a little bit of a shocker to some people who thought that he was untouchable. And apparently that's, again, these are what sources are saying at CNN, was that because he can play the black card, the gay card, that he wouldn't be fired for, he could do anything. He could get away with anything. Well, apparently not so. And, and then he tweeted on Monday saying that I didn't know what my people told me that I was fired. I didn't even get a chance. And then all of a sudden CNN claps back. Now I've got to tell you a little bit about my dealings with the CNN publicity department is I have said this to them, and to them being vice presidents of communications and very high up people. I said, there's a level of snobbery that CNN has had with me because we, over the years when I was hosting my syndicated radio shows, reached out to CNN many times. Even before the launch of that CNN Plus thing that they scrapped. Remember that last year? And we wanted to pre-tape a bunch of stuff to help promote it and get it. They couldn't give two sweet fucks about ever arranging anything. And there was a part of me that wanted to go and... I mean, they're a much bigger company than mine is, obviously. But there was a part of me that wanted to go and say, look it, your ratings and your shows right now are sucking the hind tit, I believe is the term. They are sucking hard. Why are you ignoring our emails? Why are you not getting back to me? Why are you playing hard to get? Why do you feel like you're the shit when meanwhile your ratings are shit? And we were never, ever, ever in the 15 years that I was on the radio, ever given an interview with somebody from CNN. We asked for everybody. We'd ask for Wolf Blitzer, Anderson Cooper, I don't know how many times, Dawn. We asked for Chris Cuomo back in the day. We asked for pretty much everybody who was notable on CNN. Even when there was the big news scandals, or sometimes we would do like a year-end kind of recap what was in the news that year. We had people, we had Matt Lauer back in the day. We had Al Roker. We had, in Canada, we had some national news anchors. We had Peter Mansbridge. We had Kevin Newman. We could get everybody. We had wonderful relationships with every network, and we still do in some cases. But there was always just this whole CNN just felt like it was up there. And now it's interesting too if you do follow the stories about the different rumors and things. So like when the New York Times, the New York Post, or Fox News reports on CNN, they reach out to CNN for comment. You will often see there's a snitty, I don't know if that's a word, but there's always a snitty response from the PR team when they ask about a shuffle or about Don Lemon or about whoever. And it's like, it's fascinating, but this is gossip and we don't blah, blah. And it's kind of like, wow. And then they wonder why the media, other media outlets, rag on them and tear them to shreds and revel in these scandals and this drama. Because look at how you react. Look at how you treat your fellow media outlets. I mean, so again, I'm not giving concrete examples here, but just take my word for it. So if you do look any of those stories up, you'll see what I'm talking about. So the Lemon thing, now Tucker Carlson, this is again one of those situations where you look at that and go, he was the money child behind that network for the most part in primetime anyway, that, millions of viewers, it was pulling in big money, and the scandal, people are assuming, is what kind of took him down at the network. The, not Smartmatic, Dominion voting scandal. Well, I guess the scandal's plural because they're lined up, right? Fox News is heading to court on a bunch of different problems, but that kind of maybe is what cost them over $700 million, as we know. So the Carlson thing I could understand, but at the same time, it's kind of like, it's a ballsy move. I don't know. And again, even if you listen to other media analysts or whoever, I mean, nobody really saw that coming. People had said for years he should be fired, but again, he seemed untouchable. So it was shocking to get both of those stories playing out on a Monday morning within about... I think it was literally within 10 minutes of each other. I'm absolutely sure. If who was it? Bonnie? It wasn't Bonnie. Was it Suzanne on the news wires Monday? Our team takes different turns watching the news wires and getting alerts and getting me woken up and on the radio. I think it was Suzanne. But yeah, within 10 minutes of each other, those two stories broke on a Monday, and so that's where, like I said, brace yourself. It's going to be that kind of a week. So it certainly was a great week though for Carol Burnett. A few weeks ago, NBC taped a special for her birthday, similar to what they did for Betty White's 90th, which I was at 10 years ago, and Carol Burnett was on the radio with me there. Yes, she was. I'm going to talk about my memories of Carol Burnett and her milestone birthday on the Scribble right after this.
Listen up, guys. Are you experiencing any of the following? Fatigue, less drive, poor performance? If so, you may be one of the nearly 30 million men in the U.S. today dealing with ED. But did you know you don't have to pay hundreds for a prescription anymore? And you don't have to deal with the hassle of seeing the doctor or the embarrassment of going to the pharmacy for a certain pill. Now with one free call, you can find out how Herbal Virility Max can help you feel like a man again. For over a decade, Herbal Virility Max has helped guys just like you put a smile back on their face with improved performance and drive. Call today and ask about our buy one, get one free offer. Save the money, save the hassles, and get the better blue pill. Dial 800-578-0179. That's 800-578-0179. 800-578-0179.
This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Are you in bad pain? You know what I mean. Your knees hurt, your shoulder hurts, and your back. Oh my God, your back. They're constantly killing you. And I'm sure you've tried every pain pill or cream available at the drugstore, am I right? Well, here is something you haven't tried. Pain Absolve. Pain Absolve is not available in any drugstore. The only way to get it is by calling today. We're so confident that it will work for you that we offer a free bottle with your purchase, no prescription needed, and best of all, each purchase comes with a money-back guarantee. Call now to find out how you can get Pain Absolve and get rid of your pain. Call 800-319-0582. That's 800-319-0582. 800-319-0582. Call today, 800-319-0582.
JB here, back on the Scribble. Carol Burnett celebrated a milestone birthday this week, and NBC aired a special broadcast on Wednesday on her birthday to celebrate that. Now, it was taped a few weeks ago, and the network did something similar for Betty White's 90th birthday, and I've talked about that on this show. One of the claims to fame for my career, certainly, was being in Hollywood for Betty's birthday. I had reached out to the publicist of the show and to Betty's publicist, Jeff, shout out to Jeff, and it was always no. You can't do a phone interview. No. And then on the Thursday before the weekend, so, like 3 days before, I did one last sort of Hail Mary kind of a pitch. Hey, can we get a phone interview? It was no. I was going for lunch with my brother. He was on his way to pick me up. And all of a sudden I get this email saying, do you want to come to the birthday? Do you want to come to the broadcast? Do you want to come to the, the party in Hollywood? And I was like, whoa, okay, hold on a second. We had already pre-taped our radio show for the following week, so that was already locked in with stations. Now we've got to go back to like 20-something or 30-something radio stations and say, can we have 2 hours of live airtime to broadcast from Betty White's red carpet in a couple days? Can we make that happen? And remember 10 years ago, it wasn't that simple to live stream and do all this kind of stuff. It was very, very different. And so they were kind of like, wow, this is a really big get. So we've got to make this happen. We should make it work. And on the way there, I had the information about who was going to be there, who would be walking the red carpet. Of course, you see all these big names: Mary Tyler Moore, Valerie Harper, Carol Burnett, Vicki Lawrence, Ed Asner, Gavin MacLeod, so many of them. Carl Reiner was really funny too. The cast of Hot in Cleveland, because that show was really big at the time. Amy Poehler, Joel McHale. I'm just going through my head. I'm seeing everybody walking the red carpet again. And Carol was on there, and it was really funny because, she did her Tarzan thing. And I'd said to her beforehand, can you crash my radio segment and do this? I want you to just walk by. And she said, well, I'm actually not allowed to do that. And I was like, okay, crap. And so she told me why. She actually got in trouble doing it in a public place because it freaked people out and they thought that there was a security issue. And so I was like, oh, okay, fine. Never mind then. Don't worry about it. And then when we're live, all of a sudden, here she comes. Hey, Jeremy. And I was like, this is gold. This is great. Now, we only ran for a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes tops. but it was still a moment that I had with Carol Burnett. And we found the clip. We've got the clip. I'm going to play that for you in just a moment. But Carol Burnett celebrating her 90th birthday this week. Happy birthday, Miss Burnett. It was great to meet you. And thank you for being on the radio with me 10 years ago already. It does not seem like that. Here's the clip of Carol Burnett. All right, Jeremy Bradley here, back on the red.
Jeremy?
Oh, interview crash.
Don't you want to interview me?
I think I might.
I think you have to.
And I think I saw you when you were in Winnipeg doing your touring show.
You did. You were the one.
Absolutely did. You heard me laughing way in the back. Look,
You were the one.
giggling like a little girl. Guilty
Thank
as
you,
charged.
Jeremy.
Carol
I love
Burnett.
you for that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the red carpet at Betty's birthday.
Thank
You know what? Tonight is all about Betty and
You bet.
legendary.
Yeah.
Everybody here is legendary in the TV biz. But can you describe to me? Actually, can you give me one word to describe Betty?
Energizer Bunny. 2 words.
Yeah, and she just never stops.
No, but it's in a good way.
Yeah. Now, we see the DVDs for the Carol Burnett show that are available now. We see that infomercial.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of outtakes. There's a lot of things that we never saw the first time that they were on the air.
But
Is there one moment that sticks out in your mind from when you were taping that maybe involved Betty that you think back and go, wow?
No. They were all... She was always perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hated her.
And of course you wish her the best, though, on her 90th birthday.
I love her very much, and I'm hoping to be here 10 years from now to wish her everything on her 100th, and I'm not surprised I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
Yes, and we thank you so much for... Hey, give us the website for your DVDs to order them.
Oh, I don't, we're hoping to bring it to stores this coming year. Right now, I mean, yeah.
Well, we'll be looking for that, and, next Christmas. Plenty of time for next Christmas. All right, Carol Burnett, thank you so much for joining us.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
One more story to get through. Jerry Springer passed away. We heard the news Thursday morning. Again, this is one of those situations where, we get the news alert and we're kind of like, this can't be right. Now, because we had a news alert about Bob Barker dying a few weeks ago, which ended up to be incorrect. So it was correct. It was just pulled from the Newswire service. And we were like, whoa, Bob Barker's dead. Okay, here we go. And as we're compiling and getting information and starting to write things, all of a sudden it disappears. And there was a correction first. It changed color. They have different colors on the Newswire. And then it was gone. And so we're like, okay, wait a second. Let's hold off on this because maybe he didn't die. Turns out apparently he didn't. So when you get this note that says Jerry Springer died, you're kind of like, whoa, what? No. Springer is dead? Wow. He was 79 years old. His family rep said that it was a brief illness. That's what they were calling it. It was apparently some sort of cancer. And again, he was off his daytime talk show for a few years. Then he was hosting that show, Judge Jerry. He was on the radio with me. I think that we counted 7 times, dating back to 2010. You might recall that he was the host of America's Got Talent at one point. So I think that was the first time that he was on the radio with me. He was on with me for the Jerry Springer Show, for his game show on GSN called Baggage, and then for Judge Jerry. So we had him on for all those things. And it was very funny because the very first time that he was doing an interview with us, like I said, over 10, 13 years ago now, that was a big get. It was very exciting. It was kind of nervous because that was the high point of my radio show. Meaning that's when we were getting the biggest guests. We were having the most access to everything. Like we were in our prime. Thanks, John Lemon. And I was very nervous because I got sick. I had a cold And in the days leading up to it, I was like, oh my God, I can't sound like, a stuffed up kind of whatever. Like, he's going to think this is a radio guy, really? And we connected on the call, right? They patch us in, we're talking, we have the little icebreaker for a few minutes before we're on. And I just said to him, like, I'm sorry, like, I've been sick, so I kind of sound like hell. And I remember him saying to me, have you seen my show? We don't set the bar very high. And I was like, there we go. Okay, we're good. Because unless you've talked to him, unless you've heard him do interviews, he wasn't taking that show seriously, just as we shouldn't have been taking it seriously. And so over the years then, we have more and more conversations. And one of the other things that he had said to me was, I remember asking, I said, like, are you shocked by anything anymore, or have you seen it all? And he actually put it into perspective, and he said, after 9/11 and just other things that happened in the world, we're not really shocked by anything anymore. We might be surprised when it happens, but it's out of the realm of possibility to go and say, didn't see that company, or never thought that would have happened, because, you just have to look at where the world is and where things are going lately. So, ironic that we kind of feel this way about Springer dying at that point. So, we had some great conversations over the years, and I was debating telling this story. My producers said, no, don't share this insider information. But I feel, because I'm very open, and I share, that's what this whole show is about, is talking and being open, is that Jerry is actually the reason that we got banned by NBC from ever participating in interviews. And I'll tell you why. Here's what happened. I had worked for many years back and forth with Jerry's publicist. Her name is Linda. And we had a great relationship back and forth. If I wanted to get Jerry on the show, or Steve Wilkos, or, she was always the go-to. She'd arrange it. Yeah, what time? Let me get him for you. Or he's off, or he's in London, because he was doing, he did theater in England. People don't realize that. And she was always great. We could get him when we wanted him. And so one of the very last times that he was going to be on the radio with us, she said, it's actually got to go through corporate. They're the ones kind of like controlling it. It's the last season of his talk show, and, blah, blah, blah. So you got to go through them. Well, I didn't have the best relationship with the publicist there. And so that's why I always kind of went the roundabout way to his own publicist. And so I went to the network publicist, and she had a history of not getting back to me or being very dismissive, bitch. And I went back to Jerry's rep, and I said, look, she's not getting back to me. And Jerry's rep ended up emailing me and said, yeah, she's kind of a bitch to me too. So I forwarded that, in confidence, by the way, to a high-up executive at NBC, basically going and saying, like, look, you need to get your PR team in check, because I'm having to go, run all these laps and circles and hurdles to jump over, and when I can just go to his publicist, and she's happy to arrange it, but then says she's kind of hand-tied because of corporate now handling it. So, can you get your people in order? Well, then all of a sudden, Jerry's rep emails me a few hours later and is like, I can't believe that you did that. Why would you do that? Corporate never wants to work with you ever again. They never want to be on your show again, blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of like, whoa, I was shooken. I was shaken. And it was like, whoa, okay, wait a second. Here, I sent it to the VP of Communications in confidence and being like, look, here's some behind the scenes info about your people. Can we get things together? And with that, NBC said, no more Jeremy Bradley, no more. Now, we ended up getting around that because, again, here's the thing. Most celebrities have a personal publicist, and then the shows that they're on also have a publicist. So because I know a lot of people, we were able to get around that and still feature NBC people, but we just weren't able to ever do anything officially with or through NBC. We could do the roundabout way, and that was all because of Jerry Springer. I've got to tell you that. And so I'm not blaming, I'm not saying, I chose to do it, but I thought that it might help, sort of create some change and a little bit more open communication with the reps. Instead, it was kind of like, VP then passes that down the chain and is like, look, and, all of a sudden I'm canceled by NBC. Much like their low-rated, underwatched shows themselves. So, anyway, great memories with Jerry Springer. Here, once again, we've got a clip. Here's a brief montage of, I think this was the last time that Jerry was on the radio with me. 27th season. Actually, this week, Jerry Springer starts another season of deep conversation and meaningful relationships on his talk show. And he's joining us on the line. Hello, Jerry.
Oh, I'd like to open with an apology. 27 years I've ruined the culture.
Did you ever think in 27 years of doing your talk show that your guests would have it more together than a White House administration?
Oh, yeah, I I have said that, during the campaign, I said, and, created a brouhaha by saying it, but I said, Hillary belongs in the White House and Trump belongs on my show, and, kind of tongue-in-cheek. But when the Ringling Brothers Circus just, after 140-something years, just closed its doors last month, I said there are only 2 circuses left in America now, my show and the White House.
The show, I mentioned at the top, season 27, and it's a pretty sweet gig because all you have to do is ask one question and then just watch it play out.
Oh yeah, I stay out of it. No one's watching the show because of me. Let's be honest. It's just my job to. They don't even tell me what the show's about. I'm not allowed to know the subject matter of the show, so they hand me a card before the show, before I go out there, and all the card has on it are the names of the guests. And my job is to ask questions that you would ask sitting at home watching, and then make jokes. So basically, I'm hired to make jokes about what's going on, but I never know the subject matter, or if I knew what the show was about, I wouldn't come in.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, running a little bit over time on the Scribble, but thank you so much for joining me. What a crazy week this has been. Feel free to give me a shout anytime. It's always awesome hearing from you. Live at jbonair.com is the email address. Live at jbonair.com. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye for now.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a Speak Free media presentation.
If you want some